What's in and what's out for 2025, the spiritual edition. I'm sharing those things in my life that I'm letting go of and things that I plan to bring in. So, starting off with what is out, caffeine and alcohol. So, I actually already cut off caffeine last month. So, it was not actually that difficult. I'm still drinking my decaf coffee though. So, you can still have the flavor, but just not the caffeine. It actually did not take me that long. It took me about a week, and I just like the taste of coffee. I don't know if I'm going to give it up completely, but at least it is decaf, and it's water pressed decaf, not by methylene chloride, so it's at least not that bad for you. But eventually I'll probably switch out to mostly herbal teas, but right now I'm still drinking decaf. So also out is alcohol. I think that there's just a general trend out there towards, people not drinking alcohol, and that's perfectly understandable. I think everybody has their own relationship with alcohol, and you have to do what's right for you. I know people are very judgmental and opinionated, especially from a spiritual perspective. I know that there are some negative side effects that can happen with drinking alcohol and having spiritual psychic abilities, but also just being impacted by outside energy. For me in particular, I do know for a fact that alcohol does lower your auric field and allows in entities. I have experienced that firsthand, so I know a thing or two about it. But I also know how to get rid of those entities. But I do know that that is a topic that a lot of spiritual people are like, I can't believe you drink alcohol. And, I know how to navigate that. So I've kind of given myself a pass. However, I think I'm at the point in my journey where it's going to be a thing of the past. I will probably still drink on, special occasion or something like that. But it is definitely going to be outside of my, what I consider to be, normal things that I partake in. So, no, I'm not meeting you out for a drink. I can meet you out for herbal tea or something like that, but there's not going to be any more meeting up for drinks. So, at least not an alcoholic one. Okay, what else is out for me is mindless scrolling on social media. I think this has become a very big problem for a lot of people. I know for myself, when I get my weekly screen report, it is actually very scary. I'm like, that is very bad. But I think some of the things that I have noticed with being on social media is there's so many different things about it. One is you are not being in your creator energy. You are receiving outside influence for whatever anybody feels to show you. So, I know that there's obviously a lot of good information that is posted online and that we can all learn from. But I think that, a lot of us have gotten into the habit where, we just check our phone constantly, or, we have a few minutes of mental mindlessness and we're like, let me get on my phone. And so I just don't think that it's healthy from a brain standpoint. I think it is really addictive, and I really think that I just plan on being more mindful if I do get online, that it will be very limited. And I really just plan on limiting my exposure and really focusing on creating the world that I want and not letting that world kind of be, passed down to me, whatever somebody thinks that I need to be exposed to. I'm going to be more particular in what I take in energetically through my mind, because a lot of the stuff that we see is really horrible. I mean, there's a lot of bad negative things that go on in the world, and I don't need to know about all of it. I think that when we know that there's only so much that we can do, it makes us feel sometimes hopeless, like, oh my gosh, there's so many bad things. Well, what we're being shown is stuff that's supposed to bring down our vibration, which will keep us in a lower state. And, we don't want that. We want to be in a higher vibration, because the higher up that we go, the more, that we are getting in our higher consciousness and are able to bring in the things that we want in our life. Okay. Also out for me in 2025 is listening to psychic predictions. So I think back in, was it 2020 during the COVID era? I think, it was a very trying time, and everybody was kind of, trying to understand what's happening. I don't know. So I'm like, I'm going to go listen to this person. I'm going to go listen to that person. And I think, we kind of want to know like what's going to happen. I mean, especially in times of, uncertainty, where like, maybe somebody can give me some sort of peace. And I think over the past year or so, I have really detached myself from listening to people predict, what's going to happen. I think a lot of times, obviously sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not right. But at the end of the day, I don't think that I need to know what somebody perceives may happen. I think that a lot of times those predictions, get into our mind, and then, oh, it's going to be, a really crazy year, turbulent year. And I think, we create our own reality. And I think the more that we take in those negative type predictions, I think that we end up creating that. So I'm not saying that people that make those predictions are wrong or they're doing anything, that's not on the up and up. I just think for me personally, I plan to create my life the way that I want to, and I will seek out information that I want to. I'm not going to seek out somebody that says this is what's going to happen in the future. So what is out also for me is self-reliance. So I think, I heard something the other day with Till Swan talk about how, there's this concept of the super woman that, she can do everything, and, it's really just not working. I think that this idea that we can keep on piling on all of these responsibilities in our modern day is just not healthy. And so I know for myself, I have a tendency to, think I can do this, I can do that. And at the end of the day, it's like, what, we only have so many hours in a day. And, we need to really focus on what we are personally contributing with our own unique skills. And for us trying to spend all these hours and, time and effort trying to do something ourselves, I just don't think it's realistic. And so that is one thing that I'm going to be working on in 2025 is, engaging with other people for helping me out on different things that I am working on. Okay, also out in 2025 is limiting beliefs. So I think that this is a topic that obviously has been around for a long time. We all have ingrained limited beliefs. And, when I think of limited beliefs, I really think of somebody that has a kind of like prison walls around them. So it's like this thing that you put on, and it's like you don't even realize that you do it. I think over the past few years, I've gotten better about being aware of my limiting beliefs, but I think it's really going to be something that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to make sure that I'm not focused on those things that are really, preventing me from moving forward. So I'm going to take off that and put it off somewhere else. Okay, what is in for 2025? So this may surprise some of you, but community will be in for me. So one of the things that I don't know if anybody has watched or aware of the blue zones and the people that live in those areas and how they have had such longevity. Well, one of the traits that they all have in common is, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have a sense of community. So I know that I've saw the Netflix show that, had these people that, every Sunday they would meet and have a group dinner, and, they would go play sports together. So moving over into, the spiritual arena, I think that, we're at the point in our evolution where it's going to be really important for us that have like-minded values and perspectives to start joining up with each other and, helping each other out, forming a support system. There's just so many things that are beneficial for a community. So I plan on putting that into 2025, that will be something that I plan on working on. Okay. Also in for 2025 is radical self-care. So I want to start out by saying one of the things that I have noticed over the years is, and in particular in 2024, is if you keep up with what's going on with the Schumann resonance. So the Schumann resonance basically measures kind of like the energy of the earth, between the earth and I think, is it the stratosphere, one of those regions. But basically it's kind of the energetic baseline. So it's 7.83 hertz. And so over the past year, because we've been having so many solar flares that have impacted the measurement of the Schumann resonance, we have been having a lot of whiteouts. And so what that means is basically our planet and us, because we are part of this planet, are receiving very, 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 very high intense energies. And you can tell because you will be fatigued. You may, or you're going to be super hyper. It just kind of depends. It depends on the time. It depends on where you're at. I mean, there's variables. Sometimes I'm super hyper. Sometimes I'm, knocked out. But I will say that the reason that we need to have radical self-care during this time is because our bodies are getting bombarded with this energy and it's increasing. And 2024 really showed me just how intense these energies are. And so as part of self-care, that involves, getting enough adequate sleep, a healthy diet, exercise. It's basically everything that we know that we're supposed to do, but we don't always do it. I think I'm at the point where, and this ties back to the caffeine and the alcohol, that is part of it, is our bodies are just not going to be able to tolerate a lot of the stuff that we used to put in it. I've already rejected, the fast food. I eat pretty healthy already. But it's, going in with a fine-tooth comb, when it comes to diet, but really making sure that I upgrade those foods. I did take a course back in 2016 with Bridget Nielsen on a high vibe diet, and I really wish I would have followed those principles and, really focused on that, because I think energetically I would be in a better place had I started eating, that high vibe diet, which is basically organic, locally grown, grow it yourself if you can, no pesticides, no GMO, mostly living. So, of course, there's always the notion that really in the winter you probably should eat more like the warm cooked soups and stuff. But, for the most part, living foods when you can get them, would be raw. So I plan on really focusing on making sure that my diet is the highest possible and, really trying to get into the habits of, meditation, everything that can bring your vibration up. That's really what's going to be required, because the energy is going to keep on getting more intense. And so we really need to make sure that we take care of our vessels during this time. Okay, also in for 2025 is ceremonies. So ceremonies are really one of the things that I think really bring people together and kind of provide an anchor, along with having a sense of community. But ceremonies are something that obviously, people have done over, our ancestors have done them. And, it really just is something that should be a part of what we're doing to stop and, honor all the things that we have around us, to connect with others, to, really just take the time to get centered. And, there's just so many different ceremonies out there. So I plan on implementing those in 2025. So stay tuned. Okay. Also in for 2025 is artistic expression. I think, expressing ourselves, there's so many different ways that we can do that. That's really a, sacral chakra type where we're creating. And creating is something that a lot of us kind of, put away as, I don't have time for that, or I'm not an artist or whatever. But there's so many different ways that we can express ourselves and create in the world. It could be through, even just creating through writing. It can be creating through drawing or painting, dance. I mean, there's just so many ways you can just make different things, create things, get into crafts. But I think, there's something about sitting down and creating that is just so, you just feel so good. You're like, I'm doing something. And, a lot of us haven't done this since, we were kids or we were younger. And, being able to sit down and just kind of enjoy what you're doing and let your mind go and just be in the moment. I did that last year. We had a Galentine's Day. We, got some paint and some canvases, and we just kind of started painting. And it was one of the, most fun times that I've had, just because we were sitting there talking and just, enjoying being in the moment. But I think that, we forget that we're really here to create. I mean, that is our purpose. We are creator beings. And I think, rather than look at it as a luxury, look at it as, this is something that I'm doing for myself, and I'm sharing, my gifts with the world, my own unique gifts that I have within me. Okay, also in for 2025 is spiritual expansion. So I think during the spiritual awakening process, we go through different phases where we're kind of like focused on, this or that. And then we kind of get back into the 3D world and we kind of put it aside. Maybe we still meditate, or maybe, we do yoga, or maybe we talk about stuff. But when it comes to, really expanding, I think it really kind of comes in waves. So I had my Kundalini activation in 2014. And so that was, the next 2 years after that, I was, reading all these books, learning about Dolores Cannon and, all the different, spiritual beings that were out there and psychic stuff. And, I think over the years, it's kind of gone in waves where maybe I've read a book or two. And, but I think I'm starting to get more into studies and just different schools of thought. And so I'm really interested in learning a lot of different things right now, to the point where it's like, okay, you need to pick one, because I'm like, well, I want to do that. I want to do that. I think that's a part of the issue of being a manifesting generator is, you got to pick something, because you want to do it all sometimes. So that is one of the things that I will be working on. I already am in a little book club where I spend time each week, going through one spiritual book with a friend. And, I may expand that to, larger groups at some point. But it's not only the study of stuff, but it's also the practice. I mean, I think that there's so many different things out there, and I have tried so many different healing modalities over the years that I've really enjoyed. And I will continue doing that, because that kind of stuff always thrills me. And I love just how many different things there are out there. I mean, from, crystal beds to emotional freedom technique, quantum healing hypnosis, there's Reiki, Tesla coils, drumming. I mean, there's just so many things out there. And, I'm interested in different things that are available and looking into those, along with the actual just learning about different topics. So that is my kind of outlook for 2025. I think that it is something that it feels like 2025 to me is kind of the kicking off point, I think, to a very, very expanded consciousness. I don't know if other people feel this, but that's really how I feel. You know, with everything that's going on in the world, we've been in such kind of chaotic times the last few years, and I think things have kind of settled out a bit. And I'm sure, you know, there's probably some predictions out there that next year or this year is going to be complete chaos, but I don't think that. I think that we are starting to get aligned with, you know, being more authentic, being more in tune with what is, you know, good for us, and, you know, the things that have kind of been put upon us that we're realizing that that really is not realistic. And I think focusing on things that are important and kind of finding those things that really enliven us. So that's it. So I'll be interested if anybody wants to share in their comments what they plan on bringing in 2025 and what they plan on letting go. Let me know in the comments. Thanks.